Hey everybody, this video is called Climate Change versus the Climate Change Hoax. This has to be a short video today because there is a 5 foot tall New Zealander running around the house with the title of wife that has promised to beat me stupid if I don't clean the basement. So I have to try and crank this out pretty quick here. So we're going to look at the secular point of view and the Christian point of view as far as climate change goes. If we look at the secular point of view or the non-religious point of view, there's a couple of predominant theories out there. First of all, the one that the media and politicians push the most is that climate change is man-made and that carbon emissions are to blame for the whole thing. The second theory, the one that I lean more towards, is that climate change is real because of an increase in celestial happenings. So as we watch climate change happening on not just Earth, but on our own sun and on other planets around us, I choose to subscribe to theory number two. Theory number one becomes believable if you believe that little aliens are also creating massive amounts of carbon emissions in their little spaceships
Earthquake alert
on their respective planets. Theory number one becomes believable, only if you smoke massive amounts of marijuana, and then you can believe in theory number one. Here's my point: stop believing your politicians. They lie about everything else, and have been caught in scandal after scandal. So I just don't understand what makes people think that they're telling you the truth about something as huge as climate change. It seems to me it's one of the greatest lies ever told, and the population seems to be eating it up, with a small percentage just not buying it. For a more detailed look at theory number two, you can check out two of my favorite YouTube channels. The first one is Suspicious Observers and Thor News. The latter, Thor News, is a factual news laced with humor. And both men at both pages, in my opinion, are geniuses. Even Thor. Okay, he's a genius. He's hilarious and sounds like a tree-hugging dope smoker, but he's pretty good. So as a Christian, I look at Scripture. I take a look at Scripture and see that climate change catastrophes are coming. They have been prophesied and have already started. So the proponents of theory number two are supporting biblical prophecy and don't even know it. So if we take a look at what the Bible has to say about all of this, there's two passages in Scripture that come to mind. Revelation 6, starting at verse 12. If we take a quick look at that, it says, I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. And the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood. And the stars of heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. And the sky receded as a scroll when it rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. It sounds like a pole shift, doesn't it? And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave and every free man hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne, from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? So that's Revelation 6. And if we take a quick look at Revelation 8, starting at verse 6, this is the seventh seal. All right, the first trumpet says, so the seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. We've been warned about that, right? Through global warming. Okay, well, there it is right in Scripture. Okay, Revelation 8, verse 7. Then the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. So we go back there. Something like a great mountain burning with fire. Sounds like a comet, maybe? Asteroid, meteor, whatever the correct terminology is. Being thrown into the sea. Going to create a tsunami. The third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of the water, and the name of the star is Wormwood. And a third of the waters became wormwood, and many died from the water because it was made bitter. Then the fourth angel sounded finally, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened, and a third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. And I looked, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet of the three angels who are about to sound. So that's just the beginning of trials and tribulations. There's more coming. But what they talked about there, a third of the trees being burned up, a third of the green grass was burned up. This is all stuff that the secular politicians and media have warned about with global warming. So my conclusion, actually before I even get to the conclusion, okay, so we're talking about, celestial things happening and stuff like that. When these bodies, from everything I've learned from Suspicious Observers and Thor News and stuff like that, those types of channels, earthquakes are on the rise, okay, when celestial bodies get close to Earth. CME blast from the sun wreak havoc on the Earth. I'm no astronomer. I'm nowhere near as smart as these guys when it comes to studying that kind of stuff. That's why I suggest that you go there. But in learning and listening to what these two men have been saying and some of the other stuff that I've seen on YouTube and in the news, earthquakes are on the rise because of celestial events. So just real quick before I get to my conclusion, if we take a look at earthquakes, okay, just earthquakes, nothing else, just earthquakes. If we look in 38-year increments, I found this graph on the net. And if we go back to 1863 to the year 1900, okay, that's a 38-year increment. Magnitude 7 earthquakes only and above. There were 12 of them. Okay, so 1901 to 1938, that 38 years, there was 53 earthquakes that were 7 on the Richter scale or above. 1939 to 1976. Those 38 years, there was 71. And if we look at the 36 years, this graph goes to 2011. Okay, we're 3 years beyond that. It says 1977 to 2011, and that's 36-year increment. There was 164 earthquakes, magnitude 7 or better. That was a jump from 12, 100 years ago, to 164. And if you want to use the argument that, they couldn't all be measured, then let's go to 1939 to 1976. And it jumped from 71 earthquakes during that 38-year period to 164. You can't tell me that earthquakes are not on the rise. There are things happening here. And I do believe that it is because of an increase in celestial events. So, my conclusion. Everything our politicians and scientists warned us about with global warming is written about in the Bible. All of it. It's right there. However, these things they warned us about, which are described in Scripture, are as a result of things falling out of the sky, like we looked at in Revelation 6 and Revelation 8. In other words, stop looking at your fellow man, okay, for the cause of climate change, and look up. Start looking up. And I would suggest Suspicious Observers faithfully puts out a video every day. I watch this guy every day. I need a dictionary to follow, what he's saying half the time because, like I said, I'm no astronomer, and the guy's a straight-up genius. Thor News is a little easier to follow along. Primarily because he's a hammerhead and so am I. So I find it easier to follow him, but I tune into both men every day, and they educate me as to what's happening. So I compare what they say to Scripture, I don't think either man is Christian. I don't really know. I don't think they've ever spoken about it. But I take what they say and I compare it to Scripture and see what's going on. We're definitely living in scary times. That's a fact. God bless all of you. Have a great day.